Was so clear. They shut down the factory in an economic
Kevin?
ruse. If you could kiss the cheek of the child in the
Are you
sweatshop
there?
that made your shoes.
I'm here.
We went
Yeah.
to war.
Brian, you want to test your sound? Let our
Check
engineer.
one, check two. How do I sound?
Feel the
You
hunger of
sound
the many,
awesome.
see the
Okay,
riches
great.
of the few. If they told it like it is.
Brian, is your
But
last
if you
name
knew.
pronounced
You're
Sang
Sang,
or
sang.
Clearing the Fog.
Just sang like Brian
Searching the
sang a
truth to
song.
expose
Yes,
the
he
forces of
did.
greed with
Yep.
Margaret Flowers. Clearing the Fog is a project of popularresistance.org. You can subscribe to it on Apple, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. You can also find Clearing the Fog at popularresistance.org. And while you're there,
Hi,
check out
Kathleen. It's Kevin. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Kevin.
super stickers
How are you today?
and water bottles.
I can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
You can also subscribe.
Can you hear me, Kevin?
Digest.
Oh.
Each morning, you will receive an
Check
email
one, check two.
summary
Can
of
you
the
hear me?
articles posted the day before. This is a great way to
Can you
keep
hear me, anyone?
news and analysis.
Kathleen, you can hear me, right?
I interviewed
You, but
Robert.
let me
Robert is an
try my audio
environmental
again.
journalist. He's been doing
Oh
this
my
work
gosh.
for about 20 years now.
Why is it on
What
mute?
Robert does is to read the peer
Oh, no, I can hear you.
science
Yeah.
journals on the
Kevin,
topic
can you hear me now?
and then translate.
Are you
Hi,
there,
Kathleen.
Kevin?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is my sound okay? And how about Brian? Oh dear.
Kevin, were you able to hear Kathleen? She asked how her sound was, and I can hear her. Kathleen, you want to quit and rejoin?
Um,
I mean, I can hear you fine, so I don't know why.
Kevin, ask Kevin again if possibly. Let me
Hey,
see.
Kevin,
No.
Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys both hear me now?
We
Yes,
can
I
hear
can hear
you.
you.
Can you hear Kathleen?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I can hear you. It's weird. I can hear you guys through my headphone set. Let me see.
Yeah, you got it routed to your headphone through your Zoom output.
Getting you guys on the recorder as well.
All right.
Yes, I am. So give me a second and we'll get started.
Sure.
Let me put my phone on mute.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and when Brian comes back, you guys should be good to go.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin. Hi, everyone. This is Kathleen Francis, bringing you another segment of Wise Women on Progressive Radio Network. I'm so happy to be here today and extremely excited about my guest. Inside, I'm like a little kid wanting to jump up and down with glee, and I'll try to be a grown-up for the rest of the show. But I'm so excited to have this amazing man with such a commitment to his mission. And it's a privilege to know him and an honor. And I am so, so fortunate to be able to bring him to our show and let you experience this man yourself. I'm going to tell you a little bit about his mission before I mention his name. And his mission is to rally and organize the worldwide disclosure of secret space programs, military abduction programs, the reality of ET contact, super soldier projects, and the like, as a first step to bringing about our collective Star Trek future. He is the executive producer of the Full Disclosure Now conference series of international presenters on St. Pete Beach in Florida. And that was July of 24, 25, and now upcoming in 26. He is busy working with his executive team to produce, build out, and launch the Full Disclosure Network, the app, and cryptocurrency, given the huge success of the conferences and the need to better organize the full disclosure movement with an ever-growing and amazing community of friends and fellow starseeds. So with that, may I please present Brian Tseng, also known as the Solar Bee. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hi, Kathleen. It's great to be here with you today, and thank you for the introduction.
Oh, most welcome. So before, can we just explain a little bit about your solar bee handle, so to speak?
Yeah, it kind of began as an inside joke because after I was in Los Angeles at Occidental College for my biochemistry degree in the 90s, um, I had a buddy, Will, and it's in the morning, he's greeting me, it's like a housemate, and he's saying, "Hey, B dog, how you doing, B? What's up, B?" And I was like, "Will, are you calling me like a B as in like a bitch? And he's like, "No, B, your first name, Brian, B dog." I was like, "Oh," and I felt so bad. My nickname because became Brian the Bee, from there on out. And then I went to Burning Man starting in the year 2000 when I relocated up to the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I became the Playa Bee because out there in the desert, it's known as the Playa. And then later on, I began to sell solar. After this, years after I became a medical organizer advocate, working with doctors and nurses, mostly in Northern California, and then up and down the state, and a little bit nationwide. Um, I had a brief several year stint selling solar and some electric cars. And so I became Brian the Solar Bee. And since then, I've kept that because I've learned that extraterrestrials, a lot of times when they identify themselves, they'll say, I'm like Johannes of Arcturus, the primary star. And so I'm B of Sol, the sun. So I'm Solar B. So I've kept that moniker.
Oh, that's great. Well, you might even want to consider spelling it Souler.
Oh, yeah, though that's
Just a
another
thought.
play on it. Yeah,
Oh,
that could be an alternative logo or iconography.
well, I've had the privilege of spending time with you, and I learned so much whenever I am. And I hope that this is one podcast of many because I think what you're doing is noble, and I know your commitment to it. And I know it's not something that is an easy mission to take hold on and drive into the consciousness right now, because we need every single word that you express put out there. And this is going to be one way, at least, for us to be able to do that. So, Brian, can you give us a little bit of, you know, the background of how you took this on as your mission? And I know your commitment is so total and so um, well organized and expressed. So give us a little bit of background if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is a background for my entree to where we are today in what I and others call the full disclosure movement, with the understanding that the only way we're going to get access to medical bed technology, endless clean energy, anti-gravity, and transportation, among other things, technologies that clean up the environment, for example, the only way that's going to happen is if and when or after we have full disclosure of the fact that all of these things exist. Not only do they exist, they've been paid for with our stolen taxpayer money and labor and a lot of human slavery, including of children. Very sad to say. And all of these things have to be revealed, not only so that the technologies can be freed up and our resources and tax monies and everything returned to us, we the people, that it's all been stolen from, but also that the most negative, evil perpetrators be brought to justice, in a way that we can have peace and reconciliation around the world. And that, to me, is the beginnings of the liberation of humanity and the birth of New Earth or Earth 2.0. The way that I got into it, a lot of it began really with my father, Jack Tseng, TSENG. Anyone can go onto Wikipedia and look up Tseng Labs Incorporated, and you'll find a Wikipedia entry or two on my father's company, which he began in our basement in the 1980s in Newtown, Pennsylvania, Bucks County, East Coast. And he literally revolutionized the computer graphics field with his computer company. He pioneered overclocking on graphics processor units and chipsets before they ever applied overclocking. The gamers know what I'm talking about, to central processing units to make their games run faster. He caught the IBM platform up in terms of like graphics integration with Apple. A lot of people remember back in the day when Apple was, the place where all the musicians and artists and directors, filmmakers went because they had graphics, sound, and all that integration. And then the IBM would be more the spreadsheets and stuff. Needless to say, watching my father transform the world and take us as a immigrant working class family, I'm first generation American born Chinese, to, not rags to riches, but like, working class immigrant to riches, was astounding to me. And it afforded me the ability to then attend the Lawrenceville private school and then go on a 6-week trip, cultural exchange to Australia with 3 weeks in the outback bussing around after high school. Because I'd seen kids traveling all over the world to go to this elite boarding school. And so, I wanted to get to travel, and as a gift from my parents to me. And then I went to Occidental College in Los Angeles, California, for my biochemistry degree. And right before arriving, having been in Australia, these children there, they saw Beverly Hills 90210, and they learned I was going to Los Angeles. And they're like, "Oh, mate, you're real life Beverly Hills." I'm like, it's just a TV show. It's ridiculous. Don't believe this stuff. And then when I get right before getting to Occidental College at the 1993, I think it was, Rodney King riots occurred. It was like, oh my gosh, like that doesn't look like Beverly Hills 90210. People are getting lynched in the streets. And then I get there, and it turns out that they were filming the Beverly Hills 90210 college years, the college segment
Yes.
at Occidental College. So my school was a set for California University in the fictional Beverly Hills series.
Oh,
And I
wow.
get to see these actors and actresses playing, uh, fresh college kids, like some of them like 43,
Right.
like the gal who played
I
Andrea or
know some of
whatever.
them. Yeah.
I got Jennifer Doherty to sign my journal, and she recently passed, unfortunately,
Mm.
in most like couple of years, I believe. But seeing the reality and seeing the brainwashing and mind control and propaganda worldwide and how powerful it was, have all been eye openers for me. Then I didn't
I
want to
was
go.
there in those years that you're talking about. I
Oh,
lived
in
in
LA?
LA for many years. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I
yeah.
remember all of that and what impact it had on us at the time.
And
And
getting around with the LA with a Thomas guide.
yes.
You remember
Oh
that?
my God. Yes, you're making me laugh. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Yes, it's true.
You're
It's
flipping
true.
E6, E9.
Yes.
Like
Well, we're
while like
driving, right?
shifting and
Trying
driving
to,
on the freeway,
oh
not
my
get shot.
gosh. Yes, it's true. Yeah. But please continue, Brian.
Okay. Okay. And with my biochemistry degree, I thought, very naively at the time of entering into all of that on my parents' time, that I'd learn how to maybe genetically modify algae to clean up oil spills.
Oh, wonderful.
And,
But
you
you
know,
came from some extraordinary genetics. I mean,
thank
with
you. Thank you.
with parents like that, it's no
Yeah.
wonder that you're
Yeah.
so brilliant. And I love to hear you talking about things, based on your biochemistry education, because you brought forward in the short time I've known you some very pertinent things that, again, you have so many aspects of pertinent information to deliver, to the world, because this is not just an American situation. We know we
Mm.
have to reach out to the entire world and bring this wisdom and knowledge and understanding to cross all barriers, whether it's religion, whether you're a teenager or you're 90 years old, or whatever color you are, or religion. It just transcends all of that. And
And
so,
people are so hungry for it. You mentioned religion. I think a lot of people out there will find very comforting. There's more of a spiritual concept. Even the ETs, they refer to it. It's in the raw material. The Emerald tablets might even refer to it. The law of one. We all come from the one great God source, and we all get chipped off the old block, and our own individual God source spark within each one of us. But in the meantime, we're all still interconnected. And at the end of it all, we're all going to go back and be unified to the one. And for me, it's very comforting, and that it encompasses the concepts of reincarnation and spirituality and undying energy and love and creation. And and then from there, it helps to inform who we are on this planet, not the Freemason Darwinian model of we come from monkeys. More, and after the dinosaurs were wiped out, it's more of a conceptualization of there are at least 22 to 24 extraterrestrial starseed nations who came together with their genetics to seed Earth with the human experiment, all the variations of that after they cleared the previous experiment under the Draco reptilian continued ownership of Earth, the dinosaurs, which were a failed experiment at that point because they were turning into large eating monsters that weren't going to evolve or get off planet anytime soon. And here we are, but after the human experiment was kicked off in the intervening eons, millennia, we've been hijacked, if you will, not just by negative Draco reptilian and gray factions, but especially Anunnaki factions. And then this informs a lot of the modern day Egyptology, Babylonia, Sumeria, all the same motifs found around the world. Like you're saying, that the globalness of it all, the Huayholo stones in Mexico. I've seen artifacts in Honduras, stuff from Peru, everywhere. In
Yes.
China, they have pyramids in China, in
Yeah.
Ireland, in
Yes.
Montana, in Alaska, Antarctica, you name it.
Yes. Well, I've had the privilege of traveling the world myself and seeing these things in person. When I was living in Belize, in Central America, I one of the things I did is I took people to these uh, extraordinary structures. I don't know quite what to call them, but as I
Sacred
stood,
sites and
yeah,
temples.
well, no, the ancient, like a pyramid with all the steps. And when I stood in front of it, Brian, I have to tell you, I had a recurring dream for years. I stood there and I said, "Oh, that's my dream. I must have been here." It felt like I was being sacrificed or something, in my dream.
Well, it's quite
Probably wasn't.
possible. Some of those scenes out of the Mel Gibson film Apocalypto are probably pretty accurate. Where they're doing this human sacrifices at the tops of the temples, and the heads and bodies are rolling down the steep stairs, which are intentionally steep to make it impossible to get up in time to save any of your comrades. And in front of those
Yes.
temples,
Yep.
that's a lot where I've seen a lot of different footage, over the years of wind, like mini whirlwind vortexes spiraling up, coming out of the temples and coming down the causeway, where then a lot of the people tend to be, enjoying the temples and visiting. And then I know other people who, like yourself, when visiting certain places like that of power, they'll have a sort of past life recall be triggered. And that gets into why a lot of us may be here in the now today is from we've lived previous lives here on Earth, going back to Rome and Egypt and Babylon and Samaria, and then before the floods to Atlantis and Lemuria and Mu. And we're here to correct a lot of the karmic, maybe shortfallings, or things that we could have done better in previous lives. And here we are, for an upward thrust to humanity to break free of all especially hidden and overt slavery. A lot of people, especially in the ufology community, will refer to Earth as a quote unquote so-called prison planet. I'm not so glum on it. I see it as a mixture of a prison planet and a school. And then for of the very few who've really figured it out and done the work and mastered it, might even be a playground. But our job is to help convert it from a prison into a school and then, build up the playground.
Well, I can tell you, you've chosen to be here in Sedona with this mission, which could not be more perfectly situated because, I want to share this with you. Was it yesterday? I was on the phone with an attorney who was in California for a business situation. And when he found out I lived in Sedona, the first thing he said is, "Oh, are there really UFOs there?" Sedona is certainly known for its healing aspects, its beauty, the tourism aspects, but people around the world know that there's something going on here. And of course, I did write the biography of Bob Bradshaw, whose wife, Linda Bradshaw, and Tom Dongo wrote the book Merging Dimensions. She did capture photographs of aliens. And Bob Bradshaw, who was as dyed-in-the-wool Arizona cowboy as it gets, told me himself of the things that he saw and experienced and heard. And of course, his sons had quite some interesting things happen to them on the Bradshaw Ranch. So, you know, Sedona has become sadly a little bit too commercialized. Years ago on the front page of USA Today, it said, Sedona is the most beautiful place in the country. And then that started all of the out of state corporations coming in, buying up the uptown area, and really changing the basic nature of what Sedona stood for, which was healing and exploration of otherworldly things. So I couldn't be more excited to meet you and to be participating in whatever way possible to help your mission blossom and reach its full potential.
But
That's, I think, one of the gifts I've come in with this
thank you,
lifetime.
Kathleen. Thank you. you know, the going back to the history of Sedona as a sacred site that is so unique in terms of the combination of rocks and trees and water and vortexes, natural beauty that's not found. It's unique, right? And um, it's such sacred land that the Native Americans, they didn't live here. They only came here and visited for ceremony several times a year. The most powerful tribes like the Apache and Navajo, controlled the region to even let anyone near it in the first place. Apparently, back in the day, if they caught any of us living here, right, we'd all be scalped or whatever, pay the consequences for living in the land of the gods, as it is.
Yes.
And, many of our friends in this community are very psychic and sensitive, and they've reported seeing giant, in the astral or etheric, not necessarily in the physical, but giant beings, who like would be considered like maybe a mile tall, walking. You see the legs or feet walking around here as guardians of this land. Um, and then from an ET ufology perspective, Sedona is known as a spaceport. I asked Colonel Randy Kramer about it. Is it a good spaceport or a bad spaceport, or is this like good, territory or bad? He said, you can't look at it like that. It's like looking at Dulles International Airport with the whole world going through it. Is it a good airport? Is it a bad airport? Well, you got maybe more positive or negative, oriented wealthy people who have their private hangars around the airport, and you've got everyone in the world coming through the airport to fly through. It's a more of a neutral thing. It's a spaceport. And he said he's seen things like craft flying super fast through the sky. And he has a military background, what he would clock at like 4 to 5,000 miles an hour, streaking across the sky with a glowing green aura kind of in front of it and around it, and then flying right into the face of a rock. And then 12 or 15 minutes so later flying out of the same rock face, but with no green light, but almost equally as fast. And
Mhm.
he said in spaceship talk, kind of like how when we drive cars, we have emergency blinkers. He said the green aura strobing globe like that is equivalent for ships of an emergency landing coming in fast or hot. And he said that's probably a medical drop off where the craft came in, dropped someone off for medical reason, and then sped back
Yes.
out.
Well, Sheila Neese, who I've had on my
Hmm.
show, and I have been with her on two of her UFO tours. I have seen myself, for sure, the ships, particularly on this one mesa, because there's nothing there that is of human nature. There's no road up there. There's no airport up there. There's no
Is it
way.
near Secret Mountain?
I'm not sure which one it was, but we looked straight at it and we saw the lights coming down, landing, taking off.
Hmm.
And with Sheila, which she has these goggles. They're thousands of dollars, the goggles, and then the little laser lights. And both times, and she said it doesn't happen all the time, but I would flash to them and they'd
We'll bring it
flash
back.
back to me.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not crazy.
Oh no, no, I mean not only are you not crazy, Kathleen. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of craft myself. Our friends at the Farsight Institute, Yemi Genet, for example, she's presented at my last two conferences in Florida, Full Disclosure Now conference series. They were told during one of they're called ET boardroom meetings, and that's where their top remote viewers of the Farsight Institute will literally meditate and be in telepathic contact with ET beings. And they were told during one of these meetings last November 13th, 2024, that there would soon be worldwide UFO sightings in our skies around the world. November 15th, Dr. Courtney Brown published that online on YouTube and on their farsightprime.com website. On November 18th, we had worldwide UFO sightings all around the world. The lamestream media, they pivoted to drones in New Jersey, and what little credit was given to anyone mostly went to Cliff High and his AI algorithm for detecting the blips on the internet chatter about UFOs in the skies. But really, it's our friends at the Farsight Institute who were told explicitly 5 days before, published it, and then 2 or 3 days later, it happened.
Mm,
And that's
wow.
the level that we're at and our people in our community. You mentioned, my presence and my team in Sedona. We're still in the process of acquiring what used to be the former Center for Creative Life at 333 Schnebly Hill Road,
Mhm.
very much beloved center in the community. And we'd like to transform it and revitalize it into Search, SEARCH, the Starseed Education, Activation, and Research Center for Humanity, Sedona, Arizona, and would like it to be the first of many. And part of the mission is to have advanced healing modalities here. I say here because I'm on the premises in a log cabin that's part of it, which is going to be very beloved because many people in the community are going to get to circulate through here and stay here on stints, to get to enjoy and avail themselves of the center, not only for advanced healing modalities, the beautiful nature and hiking, the vortexes here on the property, and each other's company, but also we're going to have live recording studios so that we can do intakes and interviews. Especially if they're willing to have their testimonies be public, then we'll share their testimonies, or even if it's meant to be private and for institutional purposes and future purposes, great. Um, and then with that, branching out to clean energy, and then, it's Sedona, and it's a 24-acre lot around here. On a lot of it's hilly, so I'm not sure how much agriculture or animal husbandry we can do here in the middle of Sedona, but all the other things, yes. And then that will be attached to our larger full disclosure network, which is an online platform we're building. And then that'll include an app and the first movement cryptocurrency, the full disclosure movement coin. And that's there to help enrich people in the movement who, by and large, people who have testimonies about being abducted as children and put into these secret programs and absconded to deep underground military bases or DUMBs, as people like Phil Schneider were whistleblowing about as early as the 1990s. And he was assassinated only about 2 years into him giving testimony.
Mm.
Um,
Yes,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
one of the very challenging and nefarious aspects of what you're talking about. And I myself, I hope to be, doing podcasts within your organization and your center there, because, I too have close friends who have been abducted. And one in particular, she had actually two of them. In fact, I've had both of them on my show, but we did not talk about that aspect. They're both intuitives and channelers and healers, and both had been impregnated when they were abducted. And of course, the children, they never saw.
They get
But
taken away.
they
And the
were taken
hybrid,
away.
and the reason
And I
why
mean,
this,
impregnated, and their bellies grew so quickly.
Mhm.
And they actually had to be quite careful about talking about it, as I'm sure you are aware, and being attacked by spiritual forces and such things. So, there's a whole,
Well, I can speak to
so
that.
much.
Let me put all that in context, because this
Please.
is very, there are a lot of common themes to a lot of people's abduction experiences. What it tends to be all about is going back to how humanity is the collective experiment and combination of 22, 24 different starseed races. Our genetics are very highly prized throughout the galaxies. As older races travel amongst the stars, they often resort to artificial means of giving birth. And as they get down the road generationally and genetically and thousands of years and eons, even, they need to often refresh their genetics. That's one reason why we're valuable. But those tend to be the more benevolent programs where those are our literal starseed families. We were incarnated here in a human form on Earth, and then we have contracts to have our genetics be shared. On the other hand, the more nefarious programs, because they're there too, and often people may be caught up in one and then the other, or not, there might be part of the one rather, and then get caught up into the other, is because these shadowy rogue military groups, in recognizing that someone is being visited by their starseed family, they now target that person as being of interest because, hey, oh, that person's a starseed. They have many lifetimes as being a Lyran feline being from the Lyran constellation or Vega or wherever, and they've accumulated various abilities over those lifetimes. Well, why don't we kidnap that person and figure out if we can take their genetics and breed that into our own so-called super soldiers, often what these
Right.
programs are about, to then exploit those abilities into this new hybrid creation. Other times, these are super soldier type programs where they want the genetics and then they're creating super soldiers of their own to wreak havoc elsewhere. It's not to revitalize a race. It's generally, on the nefarious side, it's to exploit those for dark purposes of exploitation.
Now, I will say that, I come from a small town in Wisconsin, Italian, uh, and a little town of just 1,006 people, Brian. And this kind of conversation would be ultimately very shocking. And of course, those of us that are like each other, uh, my family has always thought it was just the strangest thing. And how did I ever end up in their family? I love them dearly, but I know they have no clue as to who I am.
Well, each
Or
family got only one black sheep or radiant lion because they had to spread out each source of light to best effect. And no family was blessed with more than one or maybe two if they had twins or something, or maybe a child and then like an uncle. It's a generational thing.
really? Well,
Mhm.
see,
From what
that's
I
what
can tell.
yes, I think that you and I recognized each other immediately.
Mhm.
That's how I felt.
Well, we met at David Side Farman's of 5D events.org, I think is his website. At his it's a combination of alienevent.com and Biomed Expo. So it's a combination of mostly a lot of presentations from people more on the ufology disclosure side of things, and then he had at least the one main gallery area full of different more advanced medical modalities and healing devices and nutraceuticals.
Yes, and it's so exciting to see these new technologies. And we know that frequency medicine, frequency of light is the new future of our healing modalities, and certainly so very important and necessary in this current condition of what we can call a mess of unprecedented horror, to tell you the truth. I have,
Yeah.
yeah, we've lost so many people, and so many people were bamboozled.
Well,
That
that was my entree into the movement, the full disclosure movement, Kathleen, was I went from organizing physicians and nurses for 8 years doing medical advocacy, not only reversing denials of heart surgeries and cancer treatments by insurance companies and Medicare, Medicaid type subcontractors, but also reversing hospitals from being shut down by threatening the so-called nonprofit statuses of hospital corporations who are relentless and doing anything but charity care, and we're really they to this day undermine it. Um, when I'll just call it the scamdemic, people know what I'm referring
yes,
to. When that kicked in, and everyone, including all the members of my family, rolled up their sleeves, I very quickly realized the need for medical bed technology to be available to the masses. And I then realized, having seen shows like Journey to Truth, it's an amazing podcast hosted by Tyler Koala and Aaron Kuhn. They've been interviewing people who have survived and have now they remember being enslaved in what many call 20 and back secret space programs, where they literally kidnap you for 20 years. And then after 20 years of using and abusing you, sometimes out in space, I know it sounds wild, sometimes doing time travel missions, they'll return you back into your original body. But your consciousness, they'll have wiped your memories to the best of their ability, but you'll be different. This is what a lot of people are finding. And
I
these
have personal
people,
friends here in Sedona that I will introduce you to, and I hope that they are willing to share with you. I don't know if publicly, but uh, it, he is part of
he's
that
he's probably in there. Absolutely. There's a
yeah,
lot of people, it turns out, have been in these programs, a
yeah,
lot more than most people would even think, me, myself included, probably. Um, but during these stints, during these 20 and backs, people encounter anti-gravity. They encounter medical bed technology. They encounter all sorts of things, clean energy that would be of great use to humanity and Earth and all the nature here.
yes,
Um, and so uh, my father has since died from that fake medical intervention, the bioweapons. And, I'm on a race still for medical beds for everyone around, and in the meanwhile to have the truth exposed and to get people access to all the best detoxing and ways of cleansing and supplementing we can in the meantime. And the sooner we have full disclosure, places like our center here are all set up and running, the network platform running, more people coming out of the woodwork with their testimonies. When, yes, it can be dangerous. It's certainly not the most helpful thing for one's personal or professional reputation. Nowadays, though, that actually a lot of this is changing, though. As more people see things in the skies for themselves, as they suffer or see other people suffer from what they were told was a panacea heal all, um, people are waking up. And with that shift, we're there to give them coherent, cogent, you know, understandable, okay, guys, this is what's going on. Because there's going to be a lot for people to process and take in. I mean, myself, I'm 50. I just turned 50 this August.
And
And
looking like 30,
thank you.
might add.
Thank you. Would I lie with this hairline? You know, so, um, yeah, thank you, Kathleen. But things are very different from the 1980s when, yeah, we would have been called, oh, tinfoil hat, tomatoes thrown at us, to now people will be like, yeah, there's other life out there. I mean, come on, like, duh. I
Well,
mean,
it's logical.
yeah.
Back in my 20s, I addressed my Catholic upbringing, and
Mm.
I was always, even as a child, I was always thinking, and I've always been a critical thinker. I use my logic because I've always been a seeker. I've done all kinds of different religions. I mean, you can name it. I've done my Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. I've done it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And always trying to find the secrets that I so yearned for. And in so doing, I did not ever, even when I was a kid, I just what I found it with each religion that I explored, the mantra was always, we are the only one, and you're gonna go to hell, or you're gonna
Mm.
lose your soul, or you don't do everything and be completely committed to that. Instead of being committed to the truth and to exploring yourself, what does actually make sense. And so I did my own reasoning and uh, came up with so many things on my own. And I was
Well, You
always
did you did your
pleased with
reasoning and
myself.
exploration, and
Yes,
then in exploring it all, you found hopefully some gold in each of the different places you dipped your toe in, but then realizing ultimately that there's some kind of distortion or corruption there. And all that distortion and corruption is 100% entirely intentional, not necessarily because of the people in those groups who obviously mean well, but there's a lot of higher level behind the scenes manipulation and
yes,
distortion. And
yes,
then that's where um and that's why I kind of began with talking about the law of one, is because it's a spiritual thing, an understanding that transcends any quote unquote religion. And then when you have that spiritual understanding, none of those religions matter. They become at best a means to an end, a vehicle to get somewhere, but you don't need to be stuck in the vehicle as if it's the end all be all.
mm. But now you touched on it a bit. I mean, because you're putting yourself out there, do you have a concern about your own safety?
Mm,
Because so many of our wonderful doctors have been eliminated.
mm,
We know
hmm
that. And, it's risky
Yep.
to speak the truth. Gary Null, for instance,
Mm.
whose Progressive Radio Network we're recording on, um, I often wonder. I mean, he definitely brings the truth out. He was way before the pandemic, absolutely against vaccines. He did 3 or 4 documentaries regarding that topic. And I
It's
how do
scary.
you feel about that?
So over the years, I'd say it's still dangerous. Yes, we're still targeted. There's something known as Project Oblivion. Apparently, on the other side, they've got an army of handlers employing synthetic telepathy, voice to skull technology, scalar weapons, hacking, sending other people into our lives to be disruptive, threatening to take away people's children using so-called child protective services or
Oh
child
yeah.
snatchers,
Oh, it's
as many of
horrible.
us call them. So absolutely to the outright, I mentioned Phil Schneider, who is, supposedly suicided himself, right, by like shooting himself multiple times and strangling himself in his car, right? Um, in 1994, I believe it was. And for me, it's a couple of things. One is I feel divinely protected. And I've been told I'm divinely protected, and I get every sense of that as long as I stay on my path, doing what needs to be done to advance the highest timeline for the greatest good of all. And
Mhm.
and then there are other people in my life, at least two, who they've had visions, they've seen, and I don't think it's this timeline, but an alternate timeline, like 2027, where I'm assassinated on stage. Like I die for the movement in their vision. They saw the same thing in their separate visions, but not in this timeline. And what that tells me is that I'm on the right path because I'm making enough of a difference to get that kind of heat. And what that also tells me is to stay on the path and work even harder because even if I am taken out, what that does is, the Charlie Kirk effect now, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't like now all these people who had no clue about Brian saying the solar bee, much less the full disclosure movement, time travel, and underground bases and ETs. Also, that becomes worldwide front page, forefront. And
300,000 people showed up for Charlie Kirk.
I mean, and that was like, and that's like just a couple. I mean, worldwide, it's probably in the millions easily, or morning. So, um, there's that, but nothing is more important than this work. And then, I'm 50 now, right? It's like I for the longest time, there's so many people in the ufology community still who have the Calgon, take me away, get me the F off of this planet, heck off this planet attitude. Um, when really it's like we're here with a job to do. We've been here this long. How could we pull up stakes and leave now? You know,
I
we
can
we yeah.
concur. I have often felt that way because it's like, you know, and interference has definitely plagued my own life and people that really were not good for me at all. And, but I must say that when I met you and your wonderful team around you, it just felt familiar and it made me feel safe and it made
Thank
me
you.
feel like, well, okay, maybe I can find the will within me to be part of this movement because obviously Gary Null thinks that I have some wisdom because he created this show for me to host. And it does sometimes require, I mean, I've often said God must love me so much because he gave me so many challenges to deepen my spiritual strength that not too many people could have survived it, I'll tell you right now.
Well, that's the thing. It's you mentioned a numbers game. I think just like you had to do your kind of walkabout through the different spiritual religious schools and then arrive to where you're at now. Sometimes we have to go through those snakes in our lives and get bitten and have that revealed and the drama and the heartache to arrive at where we are now so that instead of kind of like a 2 out of 10, like, 8 out of 10 wash out for whatever reason, hopefully we're able to increase that to like 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, to where we're finding more and more people who are aligned and we're screening out the scammers and the fakers early on so that we don't have to learn the hard way, because that's what we've already been there and done that. Now moving forward, I think we're meant to move forward with a lot less friction to accomplish what we're meant to accomplish.
Yes. And I know a lot of so-called important people, a lot of wealthy people, a lot of people who have influence. And you know, I I sometimes think that on a certain level they don't actually perceive me in the way that is accurate. Um, and because how do I say this? I tend to be overly generous with everything that I have, whether it's my talents, my time, my skill sets, my money, whatever. And sometimes it's seen as a weakness and something that makes them not trust me in a certain way. And it actually hurts me. I feel like how did they how did they get caught in that perception as opposed to all the things I've done
Well,
that
the strength is greater on your side, and they reveal themselves on their side. And part of the really this new earth that we're talking about, it's mutually beneficial. The exchange of energies should never be so one-sided that you're bringing your gifts, talent, and time to someone who find they're quote unquote wealthy and powerful, but if they're not adding anything to the equation, who cares? In fact, I've been talking about this for the last year now. I call those people fat dragons. It's like we're the so-called, we should be the knights in shining armor, running around the land, doing good, you know, taking care of evil, protecting the weak and innocent.
yes.
And instead, we're running around in rusty armor, ill-equipped, can't even feed our horse, much less our steward or ourselves. And meanwhile, they're the fat dragons with their stubby wings and their little paws hopping up and down on their piles of gold and diamonds and rubies and Bitcoin, hopping up and down, cheering, saying, I support you, not lifting a finger.
Yeah, I understand. And I'll tell you, I guess I'm one of the star seeds. All I know is from the time I was a child, Brian, whatever I committed to, including, I mean, my my big Italian family had clubs and a deep sea fishing resort. And by the time I was 5, I was already working. And and I think that's true about in my family's that way. They're the nature that I came in with is if I see something I believe in, you got all of me, baby. You got whatever I can give you. I'm there. And that's something that I love when I can feel that desire to do that. And I kind of wish that there were more people that knew what that experience was like. To be able to be so excited about what was in front of them that they didn't hold anything back, that they felt that feeling of whatever I got, I'm going to give you. I
You
think
know,
there's, something about that
I want to speak to that. Because I mean, I had the example of my father, obviously, starting the business out of the basement, transforming it into what he did, and the world with it. And then I had eight good, five of them, 5 years, 7 days a week, working with organizers who are hardcore, in the best tradition of organizing. Um, and trying to make this country a better place, going back to um, the the civil rights period, the best of those
wow.
traditions, not the woke stuff we have today. So I want to delineate, but they had a discipline, a science, tactics, strategy, ethics, and ethos, um, and with that in 8 years of practice, again, 5 years full time and then 3 years lingering, 3 years part time as I tapered off. That was from 2003 to 2011 or 12 or so. in my organizing days with the physicians and nurses. Um, I learned a lot about how to be empowered through organizing tactics and strategy, starting with an analysis of forces in motion, and then how to build up the forces as a minority position into a force to be dealt with to then have hegemony upon any situation for the better. Okay. And that didn't happen overnight. And so, you have that from your childhood, that zeal. I think a lot of people, we have that, maybe we lose it over time. Um, in the organizing that I've learned and really gotten to practice, that will give so many of us in the movement, it gives us a structure, a vehicle to be empowered. Now instead of, hey, what do I do? Like I've written my book, I've testified, now what? Well, did you write your book to give your testimony in this way to these people in this forum as part of this organized effort, networked and backed by these people and spreading from there? Now we're using organization to transform the movement from the individuals are, oh my gosh, am I going to get, Phil Schneidered, or Hillary Clinton, as some may say, the body count,
Oh God.
or am I going to be part of an organized effort where we're so strong it doesn't make sense to attack any of us? It just makes us stronger, in fact, and gets us more attention and support. And we're going to go from there. And that's really Earth 2.0, organized on a meritocracy basis. You have as much rights and privileges as you want to take responsibilities and duty for.
So well stated. One of the things that we touched on a little bit in some of our personal conversations, and this is something that if you'd be willing, I'd like to have you on again. And that's with the technology that they've been using against us to actually change our DNA and to indoctrinate through the educational system, including colleges. It saddens me to the core. I have lost precious people to those systems that have indoctrinated them to such a degree that they don't even recognize me anymore.
Let
It's
me see this, Kathleen, because I know we have only like 3 minutes left here.
yeah,
I want to leave it on this note because exactly
please.
what you're saying, so many of us have experienced the same exact heartache as what you're experiencing. On a higher fourth and fifth density and higher level of looking at it, we signed up, each and every one of us, to come into this life and learn the lessons the hard way or the easy way, but to learn the lessons that we're meant to learn. And even folks like my father, he learned, unfortunately, the hard way because he had a faith in the system, in the society that made him a rags to riches immigrant. He trusted the healthcare system and science, quote unquote, as it was, and paid the ultimate price. And now that he's on the other side, he's okay. I've gotten to communicate with him. He's come through multiple times via many different psychic mediums and communicators. Um, Over the last 2 years, he's been gone or so, and it's part of the experience. So, my advice to you and everyone is feel the heartache, but don't be too heartbroken about it because they're all going to come back. He's on the other side now. He's smiling down. Other aspects of him have already moved on and learned that lesson for the better. And that's part of life and death, and it's okay.
Mm. Well, Brian, it's such a truly privilege to know you, to include you in my future. I'm completely on board with whatever you need from me. And it gives me great joy. It gives me inspiration and motivation, which was missing for a while, I will tell you right now. And so I hope that you have the time to perhaps be on my show once more and explore more, because I mean, we could probably do 10 shows with you
Oh yeah.
without very much
We'll have
trouble.
updates. We'll have updates and topics. And if the audience out there, if there's anywhere to comment or chime in, please do so. And
Oh gosh, how do they
we'll check out the
reach you?
feedback.
I'm
Oh yeah, yeah,
remiss.
yeah, yeah. You can go to the blog, and which will eventually have more updates on the platform as we launch it in the coming weeks and months. fulldisclosure.live. So full disclosure, one word, and then that's .live. You can also find me on Facebook. Terrible censored platform, but still I'm on there because I reach a lot of people. Brian Tseng, TSENG, and then add my nickname, Solar Bee. Try to be more, follow me if you're interested. But if you have something, some way that you want to get involved or contribute, that's where I highly encourage you to send me a direct message on that platform. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes. So, and I get excited when even one person seems to see the light. Better way of saying it.
Me too.
Thank you so very much for being on my podcast. I appreciate you at such a deep level, and I can't wait to continue my future with whatever aspects we can connect with. I expect that, I will be doing my podcast from your location per your approval.
Absolutely. Yes, pre-approval. It's in the works.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So with that, we're saying goodbye. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed this show and I hope you reach out to Brian and to me. And some of you already have reached out and want to be on the show. So I thank you and we will continue the dialogue. Brian, take good care.
Thank you. You too, Kathleen, and
You're
everyone.
so welcome. Looking forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye, everyone.